going on, everyone? Welcome to the newly renovated AmFam Amphitheater that just received over $50 million in upgrades. We all know that Summerfest is back this fall with an amazing lineup, but what does it look like for you? What does it look like with these new upgrades and coming out of a pandemic? Luckily, I got to sit down with Bob Babish, VP of Entertainment, as well as Jason Stewie, who played a big role in the new amphitheater on today's podcast. To give you the insides of Summerfest 2021, let's head to the green room. Hey everyone, welcome back to the GoGedders podcast. It's your host Richie Burke, and we have a special episode for you today. We've taken the podcast on the road. I'm currently in the green room of the newly renovated AmFam Amphitheater here at Summerfest that has received $51.3 million in renovations over the last few years, all from private funding, finally done, ready to go for this year. And as many of you know, Summerfest is back and will be taking place over the span of 3 Thursday through Saturday weekends in September this year, also including Wednesday night headliners here at the amphitheater. But a lot of you are wondering, what will this look like coming out of a pandemic? What can you expect with these new upgrades? What was it like for the team here at Milwaukee World Festival to pull all of this together and make Summerfest happen in 2021? And what will the impact be on the city of Milwaukee? We'll be diving into this and more. With me today, I've got the Bob Babish, VP of Entertainment, who has been booking Summerfest for the last 44 years. Bob, welcome.
Hey, Richie, how you doing?
You seem very excited by that intro.
44 years? Damn.
A very accomplished gentleman over here. Also, we've got Jason Stewie, the VP of Planning and Development, who had a huge role in making the new amphitheater happen, who's been with Summerfest for 16 years, not quite 44, but a decent chunk of time. Jason, good to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Richie. Thanks for having me.
I've got shirts older than him.
All right. So the amphitheater, it opened in 1987. It cost a total of $12 million to build the entire thing. As I said, we just made upgrades. You've just made upgrades. I had nothing to do with it. You guys just made upgrades of $51.3 million over the last few years. Why now? And what can people expect experiencing this for the first time?
You want to go?
I mean, sure. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. The amphitheater's been something that we've been talking about renovating for at least the last 5 years. And getting through some of these upgrades were needed. I mean, the building was tired. It needed some life, and it needed to be updated to be able to bring some of the bigger and better bands that Bob's been booking, and making sure that we can continue to provide the best entertainment quality for our patrons.
You know, the technology of the business has changed dramatically through the years, right? I mean, in the old days, we had the old main stage on the north end of the grounds, and there were 2 iterations of that. The first one was just like a tent structure, and the second one looked kind of like a Kohl's food store, and it had a pipe going through it about 15 feet off the floor, and that's what held the whole thing together. So when bands started taking out sound and light systems that they wanted to fly, you could never do it because you couldn't go any higher than 12, 15 feet. And you were burning the back of the drummer's head when he was sitting on a drum riser, so it didn't work there. So we had to build the first amphitheater, the first version of the amphitheater, if you will, and it had a height of, 35 feet at the trim height?
39, yeah.
And at that time, that was state of the art. I mean, everybody brought a sound system in or a light system in, and they could fly it there, and it was not a problem at all because it fit perfectly. Through the years, technology, especially in the music business, and production changed, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So now the biggest shows that are out there, doing stadiums or even some of the indoor arenas, needs at least 60 feet of clearance for their light grid. And we were losing shows because of that, or they would come in and they'd try to jerry-rig their systems and it never worked. So when we started this conversation 5 years ago, we said we need a couple of things. We need better technology for the bands, better production values for the bands. So when we did it, we raised that roof, 67 feet now? 68 feet?
So we raised it 26 feet to 75 feet.
75 feet. So it's got plenty of rigging so we can put a stadium show in there. It's got 19 dressing rooms, 1 star dressing room on the bottom floor, and then 2 floors of the rest of the dressing rooms. It's got 9 loading bays in the back. The stage is huge. Jason's going to talk about all this, how the stage comes in and out, and I'll get out of that way. But it was time to, if we wanted to get shows of that caliber and that size, we had had a change. And you saw it with the Foo Fighters with their big set that came in last week on a sold-out show. You see it with a Hella Mega Tour, which is the first show going in here, which is Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and Weezer, which is a stadium show everywhere but in Milwaukee. Guns N' Roses is a stadium show in most places. So being able to fit some of those shows into our building, we couldn't be more excited about that.
Absolutely. Obviously, a huge difference from the band perspective, making your job easier, enabling you to bring bigger acts to Milwaukee. And the lineup this year really speaks to that. I could say it's arguably your best lineup in years.
Yeah, thank you. It was interesting when we went to the format of doing 3 weekends. First of all, this is the 4th version of Summerfest that we put together, right? We put summer of 2020 together, tore that down. Fall of 2020 together, tore that down. Summer of 21 tore that down, and here we are in fall of 21, and now it's going to take, we feel. And it's the 3-weekend concept. So you have 9 days, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of the first 3 weekends in September. But then we wanted to do a couple things for added value. So we added those Wednesday night shows. So each week of the festival, there's a Wednesday night show, which is a lead-in to the Summerfest weekend. And then if you buy a ticket for one of those shows, which is Hella Mega one weekend, the Jonas Brothers another weekend, and Dave Matthews another weekend, that ticket is good for getting into Summerfest on any of the other days. And then we also wanted to punch up the daytime, so we added some daytime talent at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a national level. Not the biggest acts you're ever going to see, but national level acts that people are going to find added value in their ticket when they're going in.
Yeah, and Bob, just to add on, you mentioned some of the names also: Luke Bryan, Chance the Rapper, 21 Pilots, Chris Stapleton, Zach Brown. Dave Chappelle's coming. That's cool.
How about that,
I'm looking forward to that. I'm
First
a fan.
comic in the amphitheater.
Yeah, Megan Thee Stallion, Miley, Guns N' Roses. And so you've gotten all these acts. You said you've basically probably had to book, this is your 4th Summerfest since 2019, first
Right.
one to actually happen. What has the last 2 years been like?
Well, I want
you?
Jason to talk a little bit about the building, because we rushed to get this building ready for 2020, and then we locked it up. And nothing ever happened for a year, if you want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean,
And Jason, why don't Bob touched on booking bands. Why don't you touch on the Patron Experience? What can people expect this year that's going to be different from past years?
right. I mean, so when fans used to come to this building, there was a little bit of a different experience, because this building was one of the first shed buildings built in the country when we built it in the 80s. And there wasn't a lot of precedents or other ideas in the market for building these outdoor music venues. And it was kind of a trailblazer in that industry. So there were a lot of things that were built that probably could have been done differently. But as Bob said, everybody comes to shows, whether the production's bigger, the sound, the lights are bigger and better. Everybody has different experiences. And as people started coming to shows over the last 10 to 20 years, they started to realize that this building didn't necessarily have a lot of the amenities that it had before, or that other venues in the market would have. So we had some really tight concourses, some really long lines for bathrooms, and some tough concession opportunities in the previous building that we fixed throughout every single level of the building at different price points, and made sure that we distributed amenities appropriately. I mean, previously, if you had a seat in the 300 level bleachers, you had to travel down 2 flights of stairs just to grab a burger. And now we're able to accommodate patron amenities at every single level at your price point. It's ADA accessible. We have bathrooms available, great views of the skyline. I mean, really the best view of the city. And all of that is kind of incorporated at every price point, every level, to make sure that we have amenities for everyone in this building.
Yeah, and we got to walk around before coming on air. The improvements look amazing. It is going to be much easier to grab a beer and food. Those skyline views are awesome. The raised ceiling, which you guys were talked about before, obviously makes it a better experience for the band standpoint as well. And I know you guys really brought in the A team to help make this happen with EUA and Mike Kinsella on the signage over there.
Oh, I like the Mike Kinsella reference. That's funny. But yeah.
And Rich Tennyson, EUA, friend of the show, all around great guy. Mike Kinsella, just a one-man wrecking crew. So
Exactly.
It's good that you guys use Big Mike on that. Bob, before you deflected my question a little bit. So again, 44 years of booking. This last 2 years, can you just explain what it's been like for you to with all the date changes and the pandemic and everything, and how you've been able to put together the lineup for this year?
Surprisingly, you look at if you looked at our schedule, the first version, the second version, the third version, and now, some of those acts stayed with us the whole time, which we couldn't be more proud of, because they like the venue, they like playing here. Not just amphitheater shows. Now I'm talking bands on the grounds. We had bands that stayed in that said, okay, we might pick up another date somewhere during the year. Do you have a problem? I said, no, as long as you stay in our lineup for the coming year. They stayed in. A lot of the bands that we have in the amphitheater stayed in. Some of them we lost into 2022. I mean, Justin Bieber's already announced he's going into 2022, but that's during Summerfest of 22, which is great. So we got to keep that in. And then we have some shows that in the middle of it decided they were going to work, and we thought we had the perfect lineup and they were going to do it, and then they came off and decided they didn't want to work. And as a few of those start to disappear, you realize, okay, maybe that version of your festival is not going to happen. Maybe you had summer ready to go and you felt pretty smug about that being done, and then you take that into fall, and then a couple months before that's going to lock up, bands are starting to say, we're not going to work. We're worried about what's happening with the COVID world. We're going to stay away. And you start looking at that and going, okay, we realize it now that the whole thing is going to come tumbling down. A lot of bands are going to want to stay safe and go later. So this year, during Summerfest, we got a bunch of big names that decided they wanted to work this fall. And we managed to pick them up. And that's just sometimes the luck of the draw, and sometimes losing them is also the unluck of the draw, if you will. But so that worked out for us. But when you do the Summerfest lineup, just once again, the amphitheater is a separate animal. But when you look at the festival, you're trying to put together as an eclectic a lineup as you possibly can. So when we start this process, there's 4 of us in our office. There's myself, Scott Zeal, Vic Thomas, Whit Laneberg, David Silba helps. And we have a grid that we put up, and the theory being, okay, you got all these major stages, you have all these budgets for all these bands. Now you got to make a point of trying not to have the same genre on the same day, right? Because you want to make, the theory's always been, it's a people's festival. There's music here for everybody, different styles, as opposed to when you go to Lala or one of those, it's not always as mixed. Now they're starting to. But we've always been that way. So you can have a hip hop show here, you can have a hard rock show here, and you can have a country show here, you can have a classic rock. You go different stages, you find different genres of bands, right? The problem is when you put it all together and all of a sudden there's a big name band of a certain genre in the amphitheater, you have to put the brakes on and go, wait, I can't do that at 10 o'clock over here and spend all that money on that act because the amphitheater has the same genre of music. No one's going to go see this guy. So now you tear up that stage lineup for that day, or you may start moving it around. So it's a chess match from when you start the process until you get to like a month and a half out. Everything's moving around. So you kind of do that 4 times when you built it up and tore it down like we did during this festival.
Yeah.
So.
I did read somewhere you typically start booking for the next year, essentially right after the festival ends in a normal year.
In a normal year,
What's this like? Obviously, this is happening in September. I'm assuming that Summerfest might be back to the normal dates next year.
Right.
You started
We're
booking
going
that
back
out at this point.
Going back into June and July, same format of weekends
Really?
and shows on a
Okay.
Wednesday. And we probably have at least 5 amphitheater shows confirmed and done already.
Nice.
And ready to be announced, but you can't get into it and this one's done, right? So you have this really small window this time when you think about it. You've got the end of September and then you're going to open again in June. So, and it's not just us. I mean, look at Lollapalooza. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if, I think Lollapalooza might have canceled their fall dates now. I'm not sure. Are they going forward in fall? I don't know, but they're back in May again, or April or May, or whenever they are. So it's crazy out there.
I'd like to ask both of you, what's the most surreal or coolest moment that you've experienced at Summerfest?
Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
You go first.
So I think that it's probably a cool night because, as Bob was talking about, some of the great variety in music that we book throughout all the different stages on any given day is really spectacular. And this is probably 10 years ago when Pitbull was coming up and starting to get big, and he was running late, and there was some issues going on with his show, and he was going to play at the old Harley Davidson stage before we even remodeled that. And at the same time, Clapton was playing in the amphitheater, and I had never seen Clapton, and obviously I was going to try and prioritize getting to the Clapton show, and it worked out perfectly to the point that when Clapton went on, I watched his entire set. Clapton got on the bus, took off, left for the night, and then I walked all the way over to the Harley stage to see Pitbull, who was up and coming, and then I got to see the most broad variety of music in that one night, going from a Clapton show and enjoying all the classics to jumping up and down and partying with a bunch of people in the old Harley stage listening to some Pitbull music. So it was really an unforgettable night, and you can't get that experience anywhere else.
No, yeah, and as Bob alluded to earlier, that's part of the beauty of Summerfest, all the different genres and the eclectic lineup. It really has separated this festival apart.
Yeah.
Bob, you've got to have some good moments in your decades.
I got
here.
a lot. I got a lot. You know, there's the Stones playing here and how we got that date, and there's McCartney. There's all that kind of stuff. But I always go back to way long time ago when Pearl Jam was starting out, and they had a battle with the ticketing company, which now is Ticketmaster, which was Ticketron at that time. And we had 2 sold-out shows in the amphitheater. I mean, it was balls to the wall. It was as crowded as it could possibly be. Every possible ticket was gone. And about a week before that, they called us and said, shows are off. I said, what do you mean shows are off? And they said, shows are off because we're having a battle with Ticketron and the fees are too high. And I said, okay, and I hung up and I was like in shock, and I sat with our marketing person at the time, and we dug everything up and said, look, we are the cheapest ticket cost for if you buy a ticket on Ticketron, our fees are the lowest in the country. It was at that time like $2 or something. They said, you can't find a better deal than this. You can't. And we pounded on it, we pounded on it, we pounded on it for 48 hours. And at the end of 40 hours, they said, you're right. We'll do your 2 dates. That's the only 2 dates we're doing in America, right? So they came, and the first night, after all of that, we were standing in the wings, and the band hit the stage, and the crowd just, right, and just noise, and they went, that's why we do this stuff. That's why we do the concert business that we do for moments like that. You know, it was incredible. Now, a little aside for surreal part of that story, when I'm negotiating that deal, I'm sitting with my kids, which were at this time like 6 and 4, and I've got them by myself in a little restaurant, and I'm trying to serve them dinner. And I'm dealing with like $1 million deal on the phone with 5 people. And I've got my kids ringing. I'm going, don't touch that, leave that. And at the same time, I'm doing and I got done and hung that up and went, that's the most amazing moment of my life right there.
Bob, you've obviously been very successful at this. Do you have any business advice? We have an audience that there are a lot of business people in the Milwaukee community. What overarching advice would you have?
At the end of the day, which is a saying I hate to use when I'm using it, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, people have to realize out there, in any business that they're in, as far as if they own a corporation that's not even the music business, the live moment for the majority of the people that work for them, or the majority of the people that they do business with in the world, the live music moment will never go away. That energy of being in front of a massive crowd, and the production of being able to have a light show and the sound and that, those moments will never go away. People still need that visceral feel, that feeling of the bass hitting their chest, you know. That's just magic, and I think people should always take that into account. We look at it from like a sponsorship side. If you want to buy Summerfest tickets and have your people come down, those moments are important. And anybody else that thinks about getting into the business, it's a little more challenging now because, you know, the world has gone into 2 major companies, if you will, and it's hard to get into the promoting side of that. But people who are in school should join their concert clubs, think about going to study music business law. I mean, all of those pieces are out there, and people can still have a great career, and it's a very, very rewarding career, I think.
And Bob, you touched on how the landscape is changed, and it has changed dramatically over the years with streaming being so prominent, artists relying more on tours and concerts for revenue. How has this kind of changed your job over the years?
Well, I think it's changed from a marketing side, that is for sure. I mean, the world of marketing and how you market shows has changed dramatically. I think you still see terrestrial radio working for country, if you will, and a few other genres. But by and large, you have to grab that social audience that every band has. Some of these bands you're working with have like millions of people that follow them under social. So you got to be able to grab that, and that's how you can really market your tickets to an event such as ours or any event out there.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the headliners a little bit. Other than a couple of my personal favorites from back in the day, Kesha and Flo Rida, are there any?
There you go.
I don't know if I want to admit that on the show, but
Get the two of them to work together.
I'm slightly excited that they're going to be here this year. Any breakout artists to watch on the side stages that people may not be familiar with?
Black Pumas. Black Pumas are a band you don't want to miss, and they're on the BMO stage. I brought my schedule just for this reason.
Love it.
I have too many bands to remember when they are, but they are on, is it the last day, I believe? Black Pumas are on the last night at the BMO Pavilion, and it's a show that people don't want to miss. I think that's an up-and-coming
Younger
couple
band?
of stars. Yeah, younger band. Yeah.
Very cool.
You got any favorites? Talking to Jason now. You got any favorites?
Of course, but I mean, you're the one that's trying to point out all of these up-and-coming bands that everybody needs to
Who
see.
do you want
but
besides Flo Rida and Kesha?
On
If
the,
you're going
on
in
the,
Flo Rida
on the
direction,
side,
Nelly,
I do like Nelly too from back in the day. Yeah, absolutely.
DJ Diesel,
I don't know who DJ Diesel is.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Maybe I'm not. Oh yeah, you guys got Shaq coming.
Shaq's coming. I want to see him mosh. What do you think? Huh? Shaq dive off the Miller stage. I think that'd be interesting.
He's actually a legitimately solid DJ,
yeah,
isn't he?
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he does this all the time.
Yeah, you guys aren't messing around this year.
We've had, now we'll have Shaq as a DJ. We had Paris Hilton as a DJ, covering all our bases.
I think I remember the Paris Hilton. That
packed.
might have been that. That was like 10 plus years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it might have.
Maybe
yeah,
it was.
probably
Maybe she
about
was here
10.
in
I
Milwaukee
think
twice.
It was on the Harley stage, and you always see stories about Paris Hilton. You think she's this snooty thing, but she's the most pleasant person. She was scheduled to do 50 minutes, and 45 minutes out, she comes backstage and says, "Can I do another 20?" We said, "Yeah, get on out there, have a good time." So she was great. She was great. Did you pick your band yet?
Oh, I mean, so Green Day's on my bucket list, so I have to say Green Day, but that's not like an up-and-coming band. That's
No,
that's
they're not.
I didn't give up and coming artists either. We'll leave that to Bob.
Fair. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. What do you guys consider a successful Summerfest? Third weekend of September is over. You're looking back on everything a little bit. The dust is settled. What do you guys consider a success?
Nobody gets seriously hurt. That's important to us. B, the audience has a great time. C, we don't lose any major headliners, which is always a worry that we all have. And then D, we make budget. But it's the charm of the festival is it's this event for the people of southeastern Wisconsin. And we want to make sure they all come there and they all have a great time. And when we sit back when it's over, we count the money up, but we're also out there looking at the people that came out and what they're saying about the event. And if it came across as a great festival and everybody had fun and everybody saw bands they liked, gets no better than that, right?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, just getting everybody back down to the lakefront to enjoy the lakefront, enjoy the live events. I mean, making it through that event and then that feeling that everybody has at the end of Summerfest and wishing that there was more and wishing that they saw this show or that they wanted to come back and see some more shows and just wanted to keep it running. Just returning to that feeling and partying down on the lakefront because it's an unforgettable experience that can't be replicated anywhere else, and it only happens once a year. So being able to return to that feeling and get that hype and excitement back up is what I'm looking forward to the most and hoping for at the end of September.
You know what's interesting for us is we're so used to putting this together a certain way. And that way usually is Summerfest runs June, July, and then there's all kinds of ethnic festivals and concerts after that. And then we finish and see how the summer went and we move forward getting ready for the next year. This year, we've got all this stuff in front of us, right? Because at the last minute, everybody decided, okay, we're going to be able to go in fall of 21 here. And everybody cranked it up, and then all these concerts happen, and some ethnic festivals happen. And then finally, you get to us. We're kind of like the last event of the season, which is way different than what we're used to.
Mm-hmm. And can you guys touch, Milwaukee's gotten a good amount of national attention recently with the Bucks run. We're obviously going to have the DNC. Hopefully we'll still have that in the last 3 years. A lot of new developments have come around, not only the Deer District, but NM, the other stuff popping up in the city, a lot of new developments. How important is the new amphitheater to just the city overall and Milwaukee really turning into a world-class mid-market city?
Well, I think when you look at the city, and we can start with venues, I suppose, and a city of our size needs multiple venues for multiple reasons, right? I mean, you need an amphitheater, an arena, a large arena for your sports teams. That goes without saying. And when you have a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, and as great as they are, and winning the national championship, and you can see what that does to the energy of a city. The DNC, I'm so sorry that didn't happen. Hopefully, like you say, we can see that come down the road. But Milwaukee was ready and keyed up and pumped up for that to happen. So that there's this big letdown for that too. But the Bucks kind of brought it back and showed what the city has. You have indoor buildings that hold 2,500 people, and one that holds 4,000 people, and one that holds 5,500 people, and one that holds 8,000 people. So I mean, you have all these venues indoors. But as you saw from the Deer District, people want to go outdoors in the summer, and we have a window of nice weather. And during that window of nice weather, people do not want to sit inside. They want to be outside, and they want to have fun. So the Summerfest grounds are there for that. I mean, people come down to all the ethnic festivals in the summer. People come down to Summerfest down there. And the amphitheater gives you a chance to put these big shows in that may, for whatever reason, not want to play a stadium, or may, for whatever reason, not want to play a different amphitheater in the state, if you know what I mean. So our job is to have this downtown venue for the city of Milwaukee that can put 25,000 people outside and have them comfortable and have a big name show in there. So we fit right in that wheelhouse.
Jason, do you have anything to add on how the amphitheater, unlike other venues that people could play at in or around the city, is really built for music first, and the difference of that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this building was built exclusively for music. So when you start looking at some of the different configurations and technical aspects, and whether we get into the removable stage or the sound and the lights and the floor space, this building was really built for any concert that is traveling to go into any type of building. So when we talk about shows like Green Day and the Hella Mega Tour, and we're trying to book that band and that tour and get them into this building, they previously wouldn't have been able to play on our campus because we didn't have a building that they would fit in. But trying to find ways that have the most flexibility to allow for an arena show that would be on tour normally in the winter or going into only basketball arenas, but for us to be able to have some of the flexibility inside of our venue with the flat floor, removable stage, opportunity to incorporate elevators and different production amenities. This building works like an arena, it works like a stadium, it works like an outdoor shed. We can put more people in this building, and everything is designed around that one focal point of that stage. And creating those sight lines and that focal point around that stage, it's not like a concert that's playing inside of a baseball field or a concert that's inside of a basketball arena that's built for a different purpose. Everything that we did here was built for music. The acoustics, the sight lines, the video, all of the production amenities. And our shows here are an unforgettable experience that have better sightlines and better experiences that we really can't be replicated in other types of venues that aren't built exclusively for music.
And I want to end on this. Bob, I'll bring up, you've been here for 44 years again. 40.
Something like that.
44 years. Bob, you've been here for 44 years. Jason, 17. What are you most proud of, or what's been most rewarding working for Summerfest?
Me first or you?
Well, I'll go because you have the longer tenure, so
Sure.
you have a little bit longer time to think about. But from my perspective, it's this building. I mean, this building, building the new American Family Insurance Amphitheater was a dream of mine. This is doing live entertainment venues is actually what I wanted to do when I went into college. Trying to work through finding ways to create that unforgettable live experience, that idea of camaraderie and space where everybody's kind of collected together and enjoying one show or one experience together. You can't replicate the experiences like you do in these live entertainment venues. So from my experience, the pinnacle of my career has been the construction of this American Family Insurance Amphitheater. I mean, I've rebuilt 10 stages on this campus over that tenure, and each one of them is great and has its own different and unique experience. But building a venue for 24,000 people to put on these massive shows and this incredible experience is something that I'll never be able to beat. And I'm just super excited about it, super proud of it, and I can't wait for everybody to come down and check it out, because there's a lot that we're proud of, and a lot that people really need to see, because it's nothing like the old building.
And for me, when I first started in 77, something like 77, 78, something like that, and this place was mud. If it rained, you threw straw down into the mud to try to get it to dry out, and that would start to smell. The stages, if you went to the rock stage in those days, it was some wooden platforms on cement cinder blocks. That was the stage, and that was the technology that you had at the time. The old main stage, as we talked about earlier, it was a disaster. My first year, my first cancellation of a big show was the Grateful Dead, which I think was in '78, because it was raining and the stage was so wet. They were afraid if they went onto the stage and stood there in tennis shoes and touched the mic with their nose, they'd end up in the 5th row because they get electrocuted. So those days are all gone, and now you find yourself in a facility through all those years and all the rebuilding and all the work that Jason's done to make this place look spectacular, and Don Smiley making this place look spectacular through the years in the rebuilding process, that there's nothing like this anywhere else in America, let alone the world. All the other festival sites are just temporary. They come in, they throw up some stages, they tear them down when they're done, and whatever happens, happens, you know? This is home for us, and it's important for us to feel like everybody that comes here, we're not just the landlords of the building, they're just coming to visit our home. And when they come here, they have the most beautiful spot in America on a lake, on the Great Lakes, backed up to water. Anybody that ever comes here, any band that plays here, any agents that come here, take one look and go, this is just amazing. I mean, you're in downtown Milwaukee, and you've got a site like that with all these stages and an amphitheater and a mini amphitheater with the BMO Harris Pavilion. What we've created here is just spectacular, and it's great for the city of Milwaukee, and it's great for southeastern Wisconsin, and we couldn't be prouder of it, you know?
We'll end it there. Bob, Jason, thank you guys so much for coming on today. We'll also thank Sarah for making this happen.
No problem.
And thanks to your team for all the great work you guys do putting this festival on every year.
And thanks to you guys. Make sure you keep punching Summerfest up. We love it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
And everyone, make sure to get your tickets to Summerfest this year. And just a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by Go Get It Marketing and Media, ggmm.io, and our good friends over at On Milwaukee. Thanks for tuning in today.